man, to get lucky, you have to try to get lucky.
Dude, I'm saying, like, dude, okay, what are your thoughts on, like, people? I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I just noticed that it's a thing. Like, people who... How do I say this? Like, like, talk about being lucky or not before an item is finished. I'll put it like that.
So,
Like, let's say they're like, oh, I'm at X amount of money spent for, like, and I only have, like, X amount of, like, 21s, but then you know they've never really tapped for 22s.
Oh. I mean, the thing is, right? It's kind of a weird thing, right? Because, like, why do you only have 21s? Like, 21, I mean, you're probably doing that. I mean, you gotta have, like, a reason for doing that, right? Like, surely. Like, for example, right? Like, technically, if we're just going off of it, going for, like, 22 items, it significantly increases the chance at booming, right? It's, like, basically practically double, right?
It pretty much doubles it, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing is, right, is, like, if you're going for, like, 21s with a purpose, and that purpose is, like, so you're progressively getting stronger, you can build up more spares, blah, 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 then that's cool. Like, I don't really see, like, me personally, I don't really see, like, a problem necessarily with that. I think the problem is, though, is because of the fact, just by the nature of the game, 22 stars is, like, the end goal point for your gear. Just
some people anymore fucking 23ing their shit, but yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, but, like, just because of the fact that, like, 22 is kind of the soft cap on your gear, I think it's like a nature of, like, the problem with the game, you know, versus, like, the problem with, like, the players, I guess. So I noticed
like a lot of people nowadays. This is the reason I asked, because, like, a lot of people would, like, point to their Star Force costs and then, like, point to the calculator and be like, look, my Star Force cost is, like, higher than what it should be, right? And they're, like, sitting on 21s, right? And then you ask them, like, oh, but are you gonna go for 22s? And then they're like, well, yeah, of course, right? And then, so for me, in my opinion, I don't know if this is, like, I don't know, insensitive in a way, I guess, because I mean, okay, personally, I've never had a problem with 21 setters. I'll say it, like, I don't give a fuck. Like, people can do whatever the fuck they want with their gear and money. They farmed it, not me. Like,
yeah.
Why am I mad that somebody else is settling 21? It's not my damage. But
right.
What I do find odd is when people, and again, not bad, it's just what I find weird is, like, when they know to use the calculator to look at the cost for 21, and then they say they're gonna go for 22, right? And then they're like, oh, I'm, like, super unlucky. And I'm like, well, but you can still beat the average. Yeah. You can still beat the average to 22, though. Like, even though you're unlucky to 21, you've admitted that you're not stopping here, so...
Right. No, I
like,
get what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like, wait and see, right? Like,
yeah, because you
never know.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that goes back to what I was saying earlier with you, and you're tapping your Lost Ark weapon. To get lucky, you have to try it.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, yeah, that's exactly why I asked. Is because you said that.
It's true though, because yeah, it's just like for example, for me, right? Like with my like on Chronos with my Chronos character or whatever, like, I mean, hey, once I got my first eye patch, like, I hit 21, and there's always that pause, right? There's always that moment where you're like, should I stop? But at the same time, it's like,
take the dub.
Yeah, like, at the same time, it's like, okay, well, that's where you have to evaluate if, like, hey, man, do you want to go for the quote-unquote soft cap of 22, which is, that's what people consider as, like, a done item, and star forcing is the hardest thing to complete, right? Because you never know if you're gonna hit 22 on, like, an item that can drop once in a year or twice in a year, or for like,
it can be the easiest or the hardest.
Exactly.
It's definitely the highest variance. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So for me, it's more so a question of, like, hey man, like, do I want to have peace of mind and be done? Or do I want to always be sitting on the fact that this item technically still could be a spell trace at 21 once I decide on tapping it, right? And that's like that's the thing that like most people and I think it's just a problem of like the nature of the game. MVP in a minute. Oh shit, thank you JJ. Oh shit, I gotta go. Oh shit.
I feel like because my guild leader, who like, I mean, I love him to death. He's like my boy, but he would always complain about like how he's so unlucky to 21, right? And he was like,
oh, I missed it. Unlucky.
300 bill Star Force with like 122 or something, and like a couple 21s. Which is like, yes, that is unlucky. I'm not saying it's not, right? Like, it's should have a couple 22s. If you just look at the number, right? If you just look at the number and you assume every piece I'm never Star Forcing from now on, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you just take these numbers in a vacuum, right? Like, yes, it's unlucky, for sure. But then I was like, okay, well, are you tapping to 22? He's like, well, yeah, but I'm just like so fucking unlucky. And I was like, okay, but I told him this like at least 5 times. I was like, bro, like, I get it. It fucking sucks. Star Force has always sucked, right? But you could still get lucky. And then I remember on Shining last year, he completed his gear in under 150 bill. Like in one event. All 22 arcanes, all his Gollux, everything, right? Every single last item on his account that wasn't a pitch, obviously, because like, you know, those have to drop. Yeah. Like, he finished in like 150 bill or less. And he was like messaging me as it happened. And I was asleep, and then I just woke up to like my DMs blew up with like 50 something. Yeah. This guy's like, holy fuck, like I fucking hit.
I mean, that's.
And I'm just like, I was like, what did I tell you, man? Like, if your item is not done, you always have to like hold your breath, you know? Like, you know, if you can just like, all it takes is one event, and you can just like completely like pop off. And like, there's some people who just like don't. But
at the end of the day, right, it's kind of like a problem with like the player base, because the player base is gonna like, you know how it's, dude, I mean, I'm just gonna say it, it's exactly like gambling at a casino. You could go to the casino and you can walk in there with you and your buddies. You all have 200 bucks. Someone walks out of there, made negative money. Someone walks out of there, maybe they broke even. And another person walks out of there, they got like $1,000. It's like, hey man, the guy with the grand is gonna tell his other buddies, or he's gonna tell his buddy who remained even, he's gonna tell him, yo, keep going, you'll never know when you're gonna hit, keep going. And that's what Maplestory players do, right? They're like, yo, you hit 21, like, keep going, fuck it. And then you could boom, you know,
and then,
or
fucking booms.
Yeah, or you could just hit, and then it's like, well, congratulations. It's like gambler's fallacy. Like, now you've actually like, you've averaged out. You've actually like hit the good RNG portion of the night, right?
Yeah.
But then there's the other side of it where it's like, you're sitting there, the guy who's fucking went from $200 to like negative money, and you're just like, well, this fucking blows.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of him, and there's only one of you.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
The rate is 30%, so like, statistically, like for every one person that hits, I guess. Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, that's definitely just not how it works, but like, you're more likely not going to see 22 than you are, and that's why it's expected to have like a couple booms before you succeed, even on safe card. So.
And to the guy who asked in chat, is 21 to 22 like super game changing? So 21 to 22 is actually, in terms of like raw stat and like numbers, it's probably like 15 all stat and like 15 attack normally, right? Which I would say that's pretty good, right? It's like, it's not going to be the difference between you most likely killing a boss, unless you're doing the most.
Not in a 6-man party. Like, if the rest of your party is full 22 and you're like the one guy on 21,
exactly, like, it's not going to be the difference.
Most likely not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you probably can just play better to make up the
difference. Yeah, but the thing is, right, is the main thing, the difference between 21 to 22, like I said, is, let's be honest, man, a 21 item still could be a spell trace, right? it could still be a trace. So it could still just like boom and not be done. You know what I mean? So for most people, they play the game because they want to. I mean, think about it, right? Like we all play video games here. Every one of us have been like addicted to like some sort of like game or whatever, or addicted to something, right? And usually when you're addicted to something, you're just like fixing for like completion, essentially.
It's not about the logic. It's about the end goal always.
Exactly.
Like,
And
yes, logically, like you can stop at 21, but there's like this fucked up degenerate gamer part of our brain that's like it has to be done. It really
exactly
does.
And it don't, but the thing is
don't put it do.
Yeah, exactly. It don't put it do, bro. Yo.
Don't put it do.
And that's the thing, right? Like most people who play Maplestory, they fall into that category of like, hey man, I need this piece of gear to finish, and if it doesn't finish, I'm gonna fucking be mad. I'm gonna fucking say I got unlucky. I'm gonna whine to all my friends, and that's just all part of the that's all part of the fucking the equation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's also like facing a high for sure. Like,
yup.
I guarantee you, I said it before, I'll say it again. Like, you take meth heads that are in a facility and just give them Eternals to Star Force. I don't give a fuck. Like, they will stop being meth junkies real quick because the high from like
is so high.
The high from 22ing an item in this game, oh my god, it's disgusting. Like, it's so addictive. Like, even back then when we didn't have Eternals and like when Arcanes were like the pipe dream end goal and a lot of people were stopping on 21, 22 Absols, dude, the rush from 22ing an Arcane back then was like insane. Like all those people, what's his name? The Nightwalker. He does like he has people come into like the Star Force or like Discord and like stream.
Oh, Chapaz?
Chapaz, yeah. Like, think of all the people on that stream who like go crazy, right? And it's like obviously like, you know, when they go crazy, super well deserved. Obviously they farm for it, they work hard.
Yup.
And it was like it's always been like that. Like that's not like a new occurrence that they're like super like happy and like freaking out. Oh my god, yeah. Like we were like that as well, like back during Arcanes.
Yup, the legendary Brickening stream. Yup, I heard about it. But yeah, it's exactly kind of like what Harry said, like, bro. I mean, we were doing this in fucking... I remember doing this shit in Savages. I remember doing this shit in XL, bro. You just have fucking, like, literally, like, 30-man voice calls of, like, people starring. And...
booming all their shit.
Yup, and when someone hits, the call goes fucking wild.
It goes crazy,
It's like a fucking... It's like your favorite NBA team or, like, your hometown team won, like, the championship, bro. Like, that's how it feels.
The high is just so high when you finish like an endgame item. Like, yeah, maybe when you like finish a CRA, it's like whatever. You're kind of like, okay,
you're just happy.
It's like a relief thing, yeah. But like when you 22 like a Berserked or like an Endless or an Eternal, it's just like, oh my god, your brain just goes so fast.
Yup.
Like your brain, it just activates.
Yup.
Every single receptor in your in that little fucking Maplestory brain of yours just fires like at the same time.
Yup.
Oh god.
And you know the thing is, yup. And you know the thing is, I was talking about the other day, but hey, I'm gonna link it again. So, funny story. When I got my eye patch on my Chronos hero, I was super fucking happy because it was like my second or third like pitch boss ever. And I was like, holy shit, like, let's fucking go. I got an eye patch, like, you know, let's star it, right? I always bring up this fucking story, but at the time, right, there was a Night Troop event going on, right? And for those of you who don't know, Night Troop, you could buy MVPs in, like, the little town, little area or whatever. You could spend, like, a certain amount of money, and you could buy MVPs for the channel. For the map, yeah. So, what I would do, what would happen is... there would be people in like for example in like XL, someone would be saying like, hey, at this time like XX30 or whatever, I'm gonna buy the thingy. So everyone would go, right? And you would see like a bunch of people from different guilds. Like I remember seeing hella people from like Drowsy, XL, Savages.
And like buddy lists too. Like they would just
Right.
tell everybody like, "Yo, I'm gonna spend the 50 mil in like this channel, and
Right.
like, we're gonna go."
Right. So at this time, I was training on my hero on Chronos to 280, right? And you know, I had my Kishmule, I had everything set up. So, and I wasn't really farming back then because haha 15-month liberation in the waiting room. So I wasn't really giving a fuck about like Maplestory. But when the 275 push happened, I was like, okay, well, time to farm again. Like, fuck it. I can play my main. I have a Kishmule set up. Like, everything's good, right? So I started playing on my hero and farming. And after like every farming session, I usually would make like anywhere from like 2 to 3 bill. And keep in mind, I got an eye patch that week, right? So I always say, and I always remember the people who were buying like the MVPs at the time. There was one person in particular who always was buying those MVPs, and that was this dude named Phelp. That guy was always buying those MVPs, right? And that might not have, and that might not have been like, that might not have meant a lot to like some of these rich people on fucking Chronos at the time. But for me, because I wasn't really farming, I was like, holy shit, I could spend my 3 bill every single day on my fucking eye patch. And so I started my eye patch because I was able to like, you know, I was finally making some money again in the game and I was farming. And I even fucking recorded the video. Now I'm gonna link the video in chat and you guys can watch the video. But this is exactly like what we were kind of talking about, because in that video I hit the record button on my eye patch literally when I hit 20 star. I didn't even think to myself it was gonna go, just because like I kind of boomed every single other piece of gear that I ever got, right? But I was like, you know what, fuck it, like if this shit goes, like, you know, I'm gonna record. And it actually went to fucking 22, right? So I'm gonna link the video now in chat, but you can, it's a 30-second video, you can literally hear at the end of the video me nerd screaming because I fucking hit an item that is literally I've never seen. And at that point I was probably running hard Damien for at least 3 years at least.
Dude, yeah. Pitch drops back then, they had to have increased their rate. That shit was like mythical back then.
Oh yeah, exactly. And another thing to keep in mind too is like at that point in the game, that was the difference between me being, because I had a blue book, that was the difference between me being 1 set and 2 set. So I literally like hit the 22, I was able to upgrade my accessory, and then I was also able to get 2 set. It was like win on top of win on top of win. Just, and you can hear it in the sound of my voice in that video, right? I fucking screamed like a little girl because I was so happy, right? But yeah, like, it's just, at the end of the day, right? Like, hitting these items, it does feel good when you finally hit the item that you're trying to hit. But at the same time, it feels bad if you're someone like my friend James and you've been running H Lotus for 5 years and you haven't seen 1 Berserked on your guy. That feels shit.
That is fucking shit.
But at the same time, you know, this is the nature of the game. This is the nature of Maplestory, right? The nature of the game is you're irrationally trying to, like, you know, man, fuck. Chris said this the other day. This dude Shulk, Chris Snow in Twitch, but he said it the other day, and he said it the best, where it's like you're irrationally trying to like make sense of this like probability in this game. And let's be honest, guys, the probability in the game sometimes was skewed not in our favor, right? At one point, strength flames were easier to get than dex, than int, and luck. So, you know, everybody out here trying to do the math, and they trying to figure out like, oh, did I get unlucky? Did I get lucky? Blah, blah, blah. And the unfortunate reality of it all is Nexon doesn't even know how to do their own math, right? And that's like the problem with Maplestory, and it's the thing that I think most people who play this game and they try to like complete everything, it's the thing that I think most people should really hone in on and understand. That
yeah, like, do you think, okay, like, I always tell people, like, never look, okay, like, I always tell people not to never look at calculators, but I say don't take them seriously, because it's like not, I don't think calculators are real. I think hope, or no, what's the quote? expectation is the thief of joy.
Yup.
And so like people look at calculators and they're like, oh, like I'll just save this much, and
And then,
statistically I
yup.
need to hit it. Like the game will give me the item, and they act like saving that much amount of money or whatever.
Is
Like
gonna.
the second their meso goes over that amount, they'll get the
They just
result they
won.
want.
Exactly.
Right. Like, oh, I don't hit for 30 straight bill, but the expected cost is 31. So as soon as the number hits 31 bill, like the item will instantly re-roll. It will go from 16 to 22 in one click.
Yup.
And I'm just like, that's
You're
just
just
not
like,
the
nah,
case.
that's not true, bro. And also to the guy in chat, yes, it is. Comparison is the thief of joy. Hey, man, it's all good. It's like 5 in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning, bro.
It's both.
Yeah, but it is both. It is both, right? Because like expectation and comparison, I mean, it's kind of similar, right? But
Well,
yeah,
I mean, even if you don't want to agree on the origin of the quote, both are true in Maplestory anyway. So,
exactly.
Like, the quote
Yeah.
like both quotes are still applicable to the situation, right? Like if you're always
Yup.
comparing yourself to other people as well, and you're always comparing yourself to the calculator and what the calculator says,
Yup.
like, you're never gonna be happy, because I think we talked about this in once. Like getting lucky on an item like CRA will never feel as okay, like the good feeling you get from 22ing a CRA will never be as intense as the bad feeling you get when you miss on that item. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like if you get lucky on a CRA, I feel like you're just like, yeah, cool, like great, this is like a cheap item. But if you get unlucky on CRA, you're like pissed.
Yep.
You
I
know?
agree. Yeah. And the thing is, right? Okay, so another example that I'm just gonna bring up is so this guy Nick, his IGN is shady. Okay, good guy. And so this guy, from what I'm aware of, he I mean he's told me he boomed like literally like 40 arcanes, right? Now, for those of you guys who are wondering in chat, like 40 arcanes that's a fuck ton of arcanes, right? It's
Well, back then,
huge.
too, on the
Yeah, it's
non-nerfed cost, non-merged droplets, not purchasable
Right.
from the bench shop.
right. I think
1 per hour.
I think most of his arcanes that he got were during the the buffs and stuff, but still,
Oh, okay.
40 is
I mean,
a
that's
huge
still a lot.
number.
That's
Right.
still a shit.
Right. So where I'm going with this is basically to say, like, he boomed a shit ton of arcanes, right? A fucking shit ton. But guess what, dude? That guy, he's kind of done his Eternals. He's got a Roar 5. He didn't boom a single Eternal. And you know what? Even though, like, he boomed all those arcanes and that probably felt really fucking bad, he got lucky on something that was actually even better to be lucky on. Yeah, he boomed a bunch of arcanes. That sucks. But hey, man, he hit on the things that are kind of really important to hit. He hit a 10% chance to go from Roar 4 to Roar 5. He hit the Eternal pieces, and you can make the argument that Eternal pieces, as long as you're running the bosses, you'll eventually have 22s, sure. But that doesn't defeat or go away from the point of, hey man, it still feels really bad when you're putting all this time, effort, and the other major thing is scheduling with a lot of Maplestory players is really hard, right? And you gotta put all this time and effort into like getting these things down, progging these bosses, killing them in a environment where like it's consistent, you know what I mean? So like all that stuff is like very difficult. And in the grand scheme of things, yeah, he boomed 40 arcanes, but hey man, he hit on all the other things, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, like, people can tell him that, but then he will, like, because they're not the ones who boomed, like, all 40 arcanes and got as unlucky as him, like, they will never understand his pain. Unless they're, like, equally as unlucky on something of their own. That
right,
was, like,
exactly.
I mean, when he was tapping arcanes, that was the Eternals, right?
It was, yeah.
So, like, he essentially boomed the equivalent of, like, 40
Eternals for their
back then.
time, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Eternals for their time. So, like, yeah, like, people can sit there and say, like, oh, you hit the 10% grindstone, oh, you hit, like, whatever, but it's like, okay, like, yeah, he gets to feel good now, but that's because, like, he will also never forget how horrible it felt watching all of his friends hit 22 on, like, the endgame gear for his time, while he's sitting there, ricking his character. I mean, 40 arcanes is
It's a lot, man.
I mean, that's armor. So what? That's if you did it after the buffs, that's 40 times 108, which is like
It's a shit ton.
shit ton of fucking droplets,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's like 4,320 droplets, which is, I mean, if you say you farm 2 an hour, that's still 2,100 hours of farming, over 2,100 hours of farming
Yup.
that you just sank into like nothing, right?
Yup.
And so like the joy of like hitting that 10% grindstone, like who knows? Only he can say like if it felt better or worse than
Right,
like sitting
exactly.
there all those years, you know?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. Dude, I do find it funny though, because like someone said in my chat too, he's like, wait, your item doesn't magically go 22 from 14 after you hit the expected calculator cost? It's
Actually,
so
though. Actually, though.
dude, it's so funny though, because like to a lot of people, they think that.
Oh, they act like it does.
Yeah.
Actually, that's
No, it's so funny though, because
Oh, no, that is
that's,
a good one.
yeah, it's just,
A clean comment.
dude, people really be thinking that, man,
I
and it
actually think it works like that, which is crazy. I mean,
It's-
because Maplestory players aren't dumb. Like, these people are smart. There's a lot of, like,
yes.
they're like, I mean, these are educated people. Like, almost everybody I've met on this school is, like, a college graduate. Like, they've been to university. Like, it's not like they're stupid fucks. They're just, like, when it comes to RNG, they just get,
They
like,
lose all sense of
they lose
logic.
yeah, they like lose their reasoning ability.
Yeah,
They're just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It has to go, bro.
Reasoning goes out the dude. Honestly, I mean, hey man,
go.
as a college graduate, I feel the same way. When someone says, when I get a hard, okay, like I'm like the exact same way, bro. When I get a hard boss item on Hyperion, I'm just like, oh, this shit's gonna go, and then it doesn't go. I don't really get sad because that's the expected thing. But to be honest, man, I tell myself like logic just goes out the window. I'm just like, hey man, like this shit about to hit, and if it doesn't hit, man, that's just lame.
I mean, because it's like most of these people are also like, you know, they're like STEM students, right? So like, it's not like a question about like this is something that probably I'd want to say at least like discussed in school. Like this is not like some street smarts or like common sense thing. It's like it's literally taught in schools. Like these people should know this, like just factually from a textbook. Like you can learn statistics and probabilities from like a textbook, right?
Yeah.
So like it's not like these are people who have been like taught these things, but then they just forget. I guess it's funny.
Yup. That's just the essence of gambling. You are right, my friend. It is just the essence of gambling. I mean, and guess what? Guess what? The essence of gambling also goes hand in hand with Maplestory Reboot and Maplestory in general. And hey, if you want to take it one step further, hey man, all I know is the people who basically invented loot boxes and RNG like boxes is basically the company Nexon. I'm pretty sure they're basically the founders of like boxes? RNG gacha loot box type of things in video games. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're like the head honchos of this shit.
Video games, maybe. I don't know. That would be interesting to know. I've never looked into it myself. I would like to see a source for that. Actually,
yeah.
I mean, like that concept has been. I mean, like trading card packs, right?
Right. But I think in video games, though.
Yeah, in video games, I would be interested to know like who the first one is.
Because I'm only saying this because okay, so I'm saying
people say it's Overwatch, and I'm like, that's definitely not true.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
Like, Overwatch maybe did it for like esports games, sure, but like definitely they were not the first to do loot boxes ever.
Yeah,
like,
and okay, so I'm only saying this because the founding father, Mr. Chris Wilson himself in PoE has once stated in one of these press conferences that I watched, this was literally years ago, he actually referenced Maplestory when it came to how they wanted to monetize things in Path of Exile. So for example, he actually mentioned that like Nexon was like one of the premier, like basically like he said, obviously I haven't watched this interview in a long ass time, but he basically said like they're essentially like the founders of gambling for like a certain thing in like at like a certain percentage in like the
like cosmetics wise.
Wait, say that again.
Like cosmetics wise, he was saying that about like Mike
Yeah,
MJ?
I think it was cosmetics. Yeah, I
Or like
could.
just in general for like cubes and stuff.
I think he was talking about specifically cosmetics, but hey, man, fuck it. We're
Yeah,
just gonna
yeah,
say
I mean,
everything
whatever it
else.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, college is a scam, and it doesn't mean you're smart. Hey, man, you're not
Oh
wrong.
no, 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 that's definitely not anywhere close to the point I was trying to make.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that is a different argument.
Oh, for sure, no doubt.
I'm just saying, like, these people like have the background to where like they've been
They
educated
can,
in these
yes,
things. Yeah. And like
yes.
they were taught these.
Yes. Also, I mean, if you're gonna take it one step further, man, like most of the people who play Maplestory, they're in their most people are like in their mid 20s, early 20s, whatever, whatever, or some like a little bit younger, whatever. And then the other thing to keep in mind too is like a lot of people like grew up playing Maple, right? And a lot of these people also are from like major cities, and major cities are definitely, if you were raised in a major city, then 9 times out of 10 you're more privileged than someone who lived in like a rural area, you know what I mean? So you had access to things like probably a better like school system, education system, to that type of shit, you know what I mean? So where I'm going with this is basically to say, if you play Maplestory, yeah, you're probably, you know, you probably went, I grew up on RuneScape. Yo, true, some of us,
Hey,
yo,
that's an OG.
yes, yeah, exactly. But dude, some of us grew up on RuneScape, some of us grew up on Maple. Me personally, I grew up on Maplestory, man. What did you guys grow up on? But